And this is what we're seeing happen in Tunisia, in Egypt, now in Libya, Yemen, the people in Italy as well. I mean, this is going global. People are realizing that these governments are absolutely in breach of trust, and the governments are just going all out to protect their own criminality. That's what all of these laws are about. The entire Australian government is criminal. They're a bunch of criminals. They shouldn't be doing anything they are doing, and they are certainly not acting in the best interest of the people of this country.
Yeah, we live in crazy times at the moment. We're seeing an awakening happening all over the place. I mean, seeing the Middle East but Australia, we seem to sit here docile in a like bovine cow situation because everything seems to be cool here. I mean, Max, how would you, like, you've got virtually the fluoridation out of Byron Bay area. You pushed it for that. You virtually got it out. We're stuffed here in Sydney. We've got electromagnetic pulses. We've got cell phone towers every 4 blocks. You can see them, Max. They're just white there. We've got fluoridation in the water since 1968. We are only shopping malls, Coles and Woolworths virtually because everyone's time poor. People say, oh, what's the use of going to the government and writing a thing? They never read it. But I know people who work for the government say they do read it, but they don't do anything about it.
Well, there needs to be some type of national strike. Everybody just needs to down tools and say we've had enough. Enough is enough. In France, when the government tries to pass legislation that people don't like, everybody stops work. The entire country stops work. They all drive their lorries into town and they block off the whole capital city. They block off Paris. No one can enter, no one can leave, and they say change it.
And they do.
And they do. They don't have a choice because the country shuts down if they don't. You know, the people of Australia need to stand up and realise the power that they've got. The police of this country need to really start looking at this as well. I mean, the police, these guys have a hard time. You know, I kind of give police a hard time sometimes, but you think about it, they've got a lot of bad stuff to do. They're dealing with idiots and criminals and all sorts of scum all day, and it's no wonder that they do get a bit short and brutal with the people, but they do it to the extreme where they shouldn't. You know, they do treat innocent people as criminals, but, you know, you can understand it. They've had a hard time and they've been pushed, and most of them are pretty brainwashed anyway. But when all they do is enforce legislation, then it becomes a problem, because police also need to prevent crime instead of just enforcing legislation. And if legislation is introduced by criminals, then they absolutely need to look at what's going on. Now, any government that is going to introduce legislation to ban nature, really, you know, the police need to look at this, because who have we got to turn to? The people can't riot, and I'm not promoting any type of riot or revolution or overthrow of government, but we need to have the whole country stop and look at what's going on, and we need the police to start acting on behalf of the people and protecting the people and protecting society, because ultimately a government removed of accountability is a government that has ceased to serve the people, and that's what we're seeing here. And the police need to look at this, and they need to start doing their job as far as addressing some of this criminality in government, and banning nature is simply not acceptable. And I would like to see the whole country down tools. I'd like to see the entire country go on strike and say enough is enough.
Max, do you think maybe that, like, the kind of apathy we have over here in Australia comes from our historical mindset? You use France as an example of how they like down tools when they're not happy, they strike for the day. France and like all these countries in North Africa and stuff, they're all kind of born of revolution, you know. But that's how they came about. That's how they come to their present kind of existence. But Australia, you know, white Australia was kind of born out of a prison colony. So we're still living in a prison down here, a prison in our minds.
Well, absolutely we are, and we've also had this whole lucky country thing promoted to us. Oh, it's safe here, you don't have to worry about it down here, it's not overpopulated here, it's all cool here. Australia actually has the highest cost of living in the Western world.
Yeah.
And where I'm living in Byron Bay actually has, I think, the highest cost of living in Australia, so it's kind of ridiculous. Yeah. But people are, you know, I call it apathralia. I mean, I love my countrymen, but it's just, they're just apathetic. I mean, people, it's all good, don't worry about it, you know. They don't realise that they're paying, you know, 3 times or 4 times as much for everything as anywhere else in the world. And the government is just completely shafting them every day. I mean, I think they'll wake up at some stage, but I would suggest that fluoride and mobile phones have got a lot to do with it as well. I mean, fluoride keeps people passive, keeps them docile, blocks off your higher cognitive function, all the stuff that's in food, all the mobile phone radiation. People just get more and more apathetic. They're fed alpha waves by the television every day. They just don't care. If people turned off their mobile phones and turned off their television and went out and connected with their neighbours and spent some time outside for a while, it'd make an incredible difference to their lives. But none of them can be bothered. And they're all too busy running around chasing paper because they've been convinced to believe that they have to pay to be alive, when really they don't. I mean, why do we have to pay to live in the country we were born in? What's that all about? Oh, everybody has to work, everybody has to pay. Why? Why? Why are we dependent on paper to have all this stuff that's there provided for us by nature? Why can't we go and find some land somewhere and go and live there and build a life for ourselves and make it, create an oasis that would feed ourselves? Like they say in the Anastasia books. That's another thing as well. I don't know that many people out there that have read the Ringing Cedars series, but there's a talk in that of these things called kin domains, where people just go and find a plot of land and they turn it into virtually a permaculture place to feed them and their families, and they live there and they raise all of their kinfolk there, and they have these sort of villages, and that's the way the world used to be back in the Vedic age. There are a whole bunch of kin domains that are starting all around the globe. And when you read these Anastasia books, she's able to interact with the trees and with plants and with the animals. And you think, well, this kind of sounds like fantasy. But then you look at stuff like DMT and you say, well, no, it's not fantasy. If you live a clean, pure life, you are able to do this. And this is how they used to live back in the Vedic age. There were no cavemen running around with hairy backs, killing animals and hunting roots to survive. We got along with nature. If you look at everything that's in place from ancient times, all the pyramids, all this stuff, we actually got along with nature quite well. And then something came along and it messed with our DNA, it closed off our pineal gland, and suddenly we became disconnected. And now we think that VCRs and flat screen monitors and mobile phones are cool because we have no connection to reality.
Our brains become plastic, Max.
Well, they're creating a new species, and they've virtually already created one because they've totally blocked people off now from this information. And when you try to tell them this, they think you're some sort of conspiracy theorist or you're some, weird tripped out hippie or something, But all this is scientifically proven, and it's all proven by all of the cultures that you talk to. If you look through ancient texts, if you go and talk to any of the races that still live with nature, they'll tell you about all this. They'll tell you how you can communicate with nature around you and you can live in complete harmony on this earth. But they don't want us to do that. They want us to all have all of these gadgets that we think are cool and live a life that is completely disconnected from nature and just basically turn the place into one big commercial cesspool.
Yeah, commercial crap. Well, I guess it takes a natural disaster to level things out or whatever, so it's for people to realise that they can't use all these things and that they are species and part of Mother Nature. But then after that, they just build up. The rich get richer and the poor go poor, and they just do their same thing. And I think it's the monetary system. It's just corrupt, counterfeit money that's going around, and this greed of capitalism. It's sad to see. We see it down here in Sydney. I mean, we go into work and stuff like that, and half of us are depressed.
Well, it's because people think money's real, but it's not. They think that, if you collect lots of money, you'll have more stuff. The more stuff you have, the more social status you have, the more famous people you'll get to hang around with, and the greater, cooler time you'll have. But you spend all your life collecting all this stuff, and you never really pay it off, and it's all junk that breaks a few months later anyway. It's all really cheap plastic crap. And once you get there and you've got all this stuff and you worked your whole life to get there, all you find when you get there is yourself. But you missed out on who you were. You didn't have a connection to anything along the way. You trod on all these people to get there, and ultimately you get there and you've got nothing. You're empty because you're disconnected from the reality around you, because what you've been searching for your whole life is not reality. It's all stuff. At the end of the life, it all goes back in the box and someone else plays the game. It's Monopoly. It's just Monopoly in 3D reality. That's all it is. And it's not reality. What's real is the people of this planet, is the planet that we live on, is our connection to everything and everybody on this planet. And the fact that We don't need any wars. We don't need any shortage. We have a planet of abundance. There's no reason why there should be one homeless person or one person in a state of shortage anywhere on this planet. The only reason we have people in shortage is because of money. Because money is interest-based. It's a completely corrupt system. I mean, we probably need something to trade with while we're making this transition back to who and what we are. But we don't need an interest-based monetary system that keeps everybody in debt and keeps everybody disconnected. And this is another thing that's perpetuated by our governments. You know, interest rates and all of this stuff. It's bullshit. It's all bullshit. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's a bunch of crap. I was reading yesterday after the Christchurch earthquake, and the same thing. They were mentioning all these deaths and destruction. Then they say, the Kiwi dollar fella sent. You know, so, that's.
Yeah, everything has a dollar value. And money's illusional, and what exists is people, and what exists is the world around us. We're killing the world around us through our adherence to what these governments want to do. All the problems that we face, these are all done by governments, everything. I mean, I don't do it, you don't do it, we're not in charge. We're not able to do it. We consume the products that they put there for us to consume, and then they tell us that we're to blame for consuming the products that they gave us to consume, and they're going to have to impose more laws, more control, more stuff, and meanwhile they allow the corporations to continue trashing the planet, who are the ones who are actually causing the problems, who all these governments are tied to anyway. It's one big, you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours sort of a situation. They're all just run by corporations. They're trashing the planet. They're blaming the people for it. And they're all in breach of trust. They all need to be held accountable, and enough is enough. When it comes down to the stage where they are starting to ban nature, then, okay, these people are clinically insane and they need to be removed from power, peacefully put in some sort of an asylum somewhere, and we need to have people who are trustworthy put in their place to run the world properly and allow the human race to be who and what it is and to reach its fullest potential. We don't need any of the stuff that they're subjecting us to. We don't need any wars. We don't need any shortage. We don't need any banning of anything. What we need is a banning of criminal politicians. That's what we need.
All right. Well, thanks, Max, for talking about this. The proposal for the legislation, we've got to stop this, people. Hopefully the mainstream media will be onto this if they're going to do this, the government, because we certainly won't let it hold down us. We'll get up there and do it. Look, Max, what have you been up to? You're not on your show for the last month. Are you getting back on this month coming up on the Crow House?
Yeah, I should be back on during the next month. I've been sort of off working on the film, trying to get that done, and I've had a lot of stuff going on here, like going to trust law meetings and trying to organise new meetings, community meetings down here, and all sorts of things going on. But spending a lot of time working on the film. And that's still a couple of months away to completion, but I'm getting a lot of work done on it anyway, so that's good.
Awesome. We're looking forward to it, Max. All our listeners are too.
Yeah, well, it should be good.
It'll be great, Max. Don't worry about it. It'll be cool. But thanks a bunch for coming on, and we'll get you on in the next couple of weeks, and we'll see how this proposed legislation for banning plants.
Banning nature.
Yeah, exactly, which is unlawful.
Yeah, absolutely. People need to stand up about it. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks, Max. A pleasure as always.
Speak to you soon. There you go. That's Max Egan out there. And you can, if you haven't heard Max before,